Today, September 30th, is an important day of reflection. Today, September 30th, is Orange Shirt Day, also now formally known as the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. It's an opportunity to explore the impact of residential schools, of intergenerational trauma, and Indigenous resilience. We remember the Indigenous children who were forcibly taken from their homes, from their families, and those experiencing intergenerational trauma from their family members being taken. Many Indigenous children did not return home. Many were traumatized for life, and some brave enough to share their stories. Pardon me. Thank you for being here today to share in the spirit of reconciliation. As we stand here at the University of Calgary land, I want to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Tsuut'ina First Nation, the Blackfoot Confederacy comprising of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. I am humbled and grateful to live, to work, and to learn on this land that we call home. With us here today are many special guests, and I would like to acknowledge several of them. Dr. Ed Mccauley, President of the University of Calgary. Dr. Terry Balser, Provost of the University of Calgary, and Deborah Yedlin, Chancellor for us here at the University of Calgary. We are also joined by Elder Reg Crochu, our Elder in Residence. His wife, Rose Crochu, is with him by his side. Elder Rod Hunter, and the singers providing today's ceremony with Rod are including the flag song and the University of Calgary honor song. We have Elder Una Wesley, who's a member of the Circle of Advisors with the University of Calgary. Elijah Neal, Indigenous Counselor for the University of Calgary students. Shauna Cunningham, the Director of the Office of Indigenous Engagement. And Lisa Two Young Men, the Cultural Engagement Coordinator with us here at the University of Calgary. We are going to start today's activities with an opening prayer. Elder Reg Crochu, would you please bless the morning ceremony for us?
Oki damik skanotani. Kit koneksie matsi nog pawan skanotani. Okim stuiksie nog stimachka nakachimutska. Hago spom stan Christi kuik. Naksin skatsap stutokio. Hago kit spomokio. Oka hei ais chipetapio. Ayo napi na tusi. Oki dance kachimadan skanotani. Oki to pachimo skam stuiksie no. Mochkin stisum kidaskini matskio. Nog gaat bij iskinui jou anaki topiwa kan ik tuskini maatjawak is kochtak en ik nog het chinchinsa nog het chistikiks matut kaiwa ai spomo sawa Tokyo mag ik daarmee toch zijn ja genata pa ook niet toe je kan Christikoi toch patchimo's kam stikje is ja ksipoje spomo saus chipatapio maxika kimatu sa makokpuka po takimsa ni chetapio ai spomo sa ni toe chipatapio panakasknima sawak anak ni chetapi asitapio matukano achimo ko kan kriskanot ni apsetoki pachimo kana ko kitapio ai makidaksa pisawa uko ano yaksa uksina yawan ita pokpapukan aniko bakrististoms o kenak pukawa keskinima chawaka sitapiwa ai o sochika kuikyo o kistipata pio do kanoachimus kenak itsitoka pokpiwa ai spomu samakokes kuno sawa stotokiwa gokatich Iqtsapua Kayanik Mukamut, Soko, Yoga Goxiskato, Kamotan, Nesta Wachiman, Axibeta Pios, and Anyai.
Thank you, Reg. I'd like now to invite Chancellor Yedlin to say a few words.
Everyone, today is a day of healing, listening, remembering, and learning. National Truth and Reconciliation Day, formerly known as Orange Shirt Day, is a day for all Canadians to reflect on the trauma caused by residential schools. It is recognized in September, as this is the time of year that Indigenous children were historically taken from their homes and families and sent away to schools whose mission was to strip them of their identity, culture, and language through education. Many of us see the beginning of the school year as a time for new beginnings, but for these children, it was a time of endings. The end of being with family and of innocent childhoods, the end of freedom, the end of using one's language, and the end of adhering to your own culture and religion. The orange shirt, which was the color of the shirt taken away from Phyllis Webstad when she first entered the St. Joe's Residential School in Williams Lake, BC, at the age of 6, has become a symbol of all these losses. Today, wearing an orange shirt on September 30th raises awareness of the residential school experience and signifies a willingness to learn, to walk parallel paths together and work together toward reconciliation, recognizing the trauma caused to thousands of families and communities who suffered because of the residential school system and continue to suffer. As I was writing my remarks, I visited the website of the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation. At the bottom, I saw the links to search for names, informational resources, a memorial book, and the names of the schools. It reminded me of another place that exists with similar links, the Holocaust Memorial Yad Vashem, where I have searched for relatives, for information, for names. But instead of schools, I've searched ghettos and concentration camps. Through my parents, I understand that loss of family and the impact of that loss. And through my parents, I understand the importance of never forgetting and the importance of educating others so that it doesn't happen again to anyone. Educational institutions must lead the way as leaders in reconciliation. To meet this challenge and to be successful, we must embrace decolonization and Indigenous engagement. Our Indigenous strategy, Itapatope, is Calgary's commitment to reconciliation, to engaging with Indigenous communities in a thoughtful and respectful way, and to calling out racism and other injustices. To move towards reconciliation, we must do the work now at all levels of society. The work of listening, learning, understanding, and engaging in meaningful conversation. We must educate ourselves and those around us, because if there is one thing we know, universities like Calgary have impact. The work we do here will impact the greater community. Indigenous peoples in Canada live with the memories of the residential schools from the past in the present, every day. That's why it is incumbent on all of us to commit to reconciliation and to ensure nothing like this ever happens again. Today, we wear orange shirts as a reminder. We are still on the journey to reconciliation.
Thank you, Chancellor. I am so grateful for your commitment and working and walking with us on this journey. President Mccauley is here today also, and we'd like for you to share a few remarks on behalf of the university. Ed?
Thank you, Dr. Hart. To begin, I would like to acknowledge Elder-in-Residence Reg Crochu and the formidable Rose Crochu at his side as usual. Elder Rod Hunter and Elder Una Wesley. Thank you for sharing your experience with us today and the enormous courage behind this sharing. I'd also like to thank you for the many other gifts of wisdom, knowledge, and compassion that you contribute so generously to our university family. I have seen personally how deeply your guidance is appreciated and how much of a difference you have made in the lives of our students and our wider community. Thank you so much for your leadership. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is an opportunity for all Canadians to reflect on the trauma caused by the residential school system. This day and the month hold deep significance for Indigenous communities in Canada. I want to emphasize how this day and this month must also hold deep significance for settler communities. The residential school system reflects a larger story of oppression and racism that every one of us needs to understand. We have a responsibility to face these stories with courage and learn from them so that we can make sure that such atrocities never happen again. This is a commitment to recognizing the impact of the residential school system for Indigenous friends, colleagues, and family members. And it's an opportunity to acknowledge that the trauma is both past and present, impacting multiple generations. And I think that doing the work of reconciliation, really opening our hearts to listening and understanding, is an action that strengthens our communities. We come away from these conversations with a better appreciation of one another and the diversity of knowledge that each person brings to the table. We need to commit to the path of reconciliation at an individual level. But the responsibility also extends to the work we need to do at the institutional level. Reconciliation calls for change, and change requires knowledge, teaching, and new ways of understanding. We have an accountability as a leading university to contribute to this process of learning and caring that will move positive change forward. And as Chancellor Yedlin noted, this means addressing racism, providing equal opportunities in education and employment, and engaging with Indigenous communities in ways that are meaningful and respectful. These are just a few of the actions that we need to take to advance reconciliation, and the work does not stop after today. Reconciliation is an ongoing journey that calls for continuous and sincere commitment. So I'd like to take this moment now to share my personal commitment to reconciliation. The University of Calgary is committed to this journey of truth, reconciliation, and equity. And I'd like to thank everyone here with us in person and online for your commitment as well. Thank you for walking this parallel path towards healing and reconciliation. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts, Ed. I so deeply appreciate us walking together and creating change both within the institution, but the communities around us. To recognize this important day, I'd like to draw your attention to the Every Child Matters nightlight display we have on campus. For us, this symbolism of the lights that we have shining on the buildings, again this evening, last night, and again in the 2 nights to come, we're sharing several messages. We're acknowledging the darkness of the residential school experience. We're acknowledging how these experiences that people have been through happen not just in the day, not just in the classroom, but all day, all night. That night is a time when many children are looking for security, for safety, but yet in residential schools, so many children were without their families. All the children were without their families. So many were alone and isolated. So we recognize the night is an impactful time. We want to shine a light on raising awareness to this matter about what children have been through at the night, what the survivors have been through. The light for us is a spiritual guide. The light raises attention to the matter, but also provides us with a sense of direction. It provides us a way through the darkness. The light represents the love for those who've lost and the love for the children to come, that we may learn from this and go forward in a better way. These lights that we have on display in the evenings at night are facing in each of the directions, the east, the south, the west, the north, as a reflection of many Indigenous nations and our cultures of acknowledging a holistic perspective and looking in all directions. The lights are displayed in 4 areas. 4 again, representing the significance of this number for many Indigenous nations. We hope that these displays create a time for people to stop and reflect, create a time for people to think about these experiences, and hopefully is a beacon for them to go and learn more, to go and meet other people, to learn of new cultures. We miss our brothers and sisters, our friends and family, our community members, and the many children who died or who are forever impacted by residential schools. I would like now to invite our special guests to lower the flags. Lowering the pride flag is Elijah Neal, a recent alumni of the Masters of Social Work program. There are an Indigenous queer two-spirited Cree Métis and currently work with the Student Wellness Services and Writing Symbols Lodge as the Indigenous Counselor for Students. They, Elijah, have been significantly impactful in the short time that they have been here already, and I'm grateful that he's joining us here and walking with us. As a Métis person, he brings a perspective to the whole experience that has to be heard and included. President Ed Mccauley will be lowering the university flag, and as said, is representing our deep commitment as an institution. Provost and Vice Chancellor of Research, Provost and Vice President Dr. Terry Belser will be lowering the Alberta flag, and I will be lowering the Canada flag. After we lower the flags, please join us in a moment of silence to remember the victims of the residential schools. As we lower the flags, Elder Rod Hunter and his accompaniment will be singing a song. Thank you for that song, Rod. The flag song, as we lowered the flag, causes me to do many reflections, and I'm grateful for this part of our cultures that we share. And the second song, our University of Calgary honor song, gifted to us by Elder Rod Hunter. I'm grateful and thankful every time I hear the song for our connection as an institution with the First Nations peoples of this territory. Rod, your music is powerful. Your singers are powerful. I thank you. I would like now to invite Elder Una Wesley to provide her personal reflections.
Hello? I never thought I'd see this day where we'll be honored for coming through the Indian residential school. I was in there about 10 years, and I left that place after I almost died there. I remember when I was 7 years old, my mother braided my hair, and she put on some new clothes, new jacket, and a dress, and a new moose hide moccasin. I can still smell the moccasin today, and that was the only time I smelled that tan moose hide. I never seen that moose hide after that, after I arrived at the school, because it took away my clothing, and they gave me what they have there, and they cut my hair. And I didn't know the hair was important part of our status as Indigenous, and they just threw me like in a prison where I had to fight my own way, as my grandma told me when I was leaving for school. She said, she told me, from now on, you have to fight your own battles. And whoever wants to attack you, just make a fist and hit them, like she told me. So when I went to school, after they took my clothes and they cut my hair, that's what I used to do. Anytime some kids would come and talk to me, I just hit them, and I sent them away crying. And I had to be reprimanded for being violent. But that was the beginning of my survival there. We had a lot of abuse, and I remember it was a lonely time. I never saw my parents for 10 months. In the 10 months, I seen a lot of abuse, and I had to fight my own way out. For example, I remember when we were serving at breakfast, there were 10 of us in a table, 5 at each end. They divided, and they had a server. And I didn't know the others were part of that gang. And when it came to me to get the food, here it was a porridge, and they gave me, and I was watching. Oh, they filled their bowls. For me, it was only about 1 scoop of a spoon, and I got mad, and I stood up and I threw it down. Here I splattered all over that server's face, and I had to be taken out and punished, and no more food for that day. And there are other stories, so much abuse and so much loneliness. I was so glad to be home for the summer. However, it seemed like that was short-lived, and we had to go back to the jail. And I don't like to talk about those days. Later on in my life, I realized in order to have a change in my life, I had to get rid of all this bad stuff and have my own inner healing myself with the help of the Almighty. That's what happened. Until then, I was miserable, and I was always sickly back then. And one time, I was attacked by a supervisor for coughing. I had a cold. I was coughing, and that supervisor got really agitated and attacked me and pulled me on, grabbed both of my neck and lifted me off the floor, and my feet was dangling and put me down. Next thing I ended up in the hospital. From there, I thought I was sleeping, and I woke up, there was a high ceiling, and I said, "Where am I?" I asked the nurse, and she told me I was in Charles Campbell Hospital. And my neck was, I felt that it felt like a grapefruit stuck on the side of my neck. The doctors came, and without any anesthetic, I remember seeing a syringe, maybe about 7 or 8 inches long. They jabbed me into, it was all filled with pus, I guess. They jabbed into my neck, and I screamed so loud. I hate that place. I just grabbed onto the nurse's shirt, and I ripped it up. And I was 13 years old. And this is just part of what I went through. And I came through all that. When I came through, I came back to my reserve. That was homecoming. It was the most beautiful time of my life. And I met some people, and one of them is my friends here, Reggie and Rose. I really got strengthened by their help in my life. I went through a lot, and I'm going to be 79, and I can't say, I can't reiterate what happened to me that long. So this is just part of me sharing, like, I never found, they teach us about God every day out there in school. I never found that until I got home. That's when I found it. And I entered a Sundance. My father gave me his whistle, and I ended up dancing in 17 Sundances. And I really cherish our livelihood amongst our people. because they practice 7 teachings of trust, love, and humility, and courage, and just as some of the things I'm just sharing. It was a horrible time, but that's gone, and I hope from now into the future, the young people will have a better life because of what we went through, and there should be more attending university. That's my prayer for the young people. It's okay to get a degree and go back on the reserve, because if we don't do anything on the reserve, we are going to be conquered. Like we were almost conquered with alcohol, and now it's drugs, and we have to look after each other to survive. And I think in the future, it's going to be good for the young people. That's all I have to say. Yes.
Ishnish. Yuna, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm reflecting on the experience of how they tried to disconnect you from your own self, the cutting of your hair, the taking of your items, and disconnect you from your own community. I'm grateful that you found your way back, of reconnecting to your own culture of the Stoney Nakoda, to your own families and your own community. I'm honored that you're here to share these stories and words with us. I now invite Elder Reg Crochu to provide his personal reflections.
Okay. Okay, and welcome to all of you to this flag lowering today here at the University of Calgary. I just want to say it's an honor to respect and remember, especially the children that started all this reflection, the 215 children that were found. I feel it's a great honor to them. And I'd like to thank the University of Calgary for their efforts in remembering. I went to residential school on the Piikani First Nation. I went to that school when I was 5 years old, and I left the school when I was 14 when they closed the school. So through those years, as I listened to Yuna's story, I reflect on a lot of what she said happened in all residential schools. I reflect also on times that I was in that school that I never thought I'd see freedom. I thought my whole life was going to be controlled inside this barbed wire fence and the brick building that we were confined to live in and to learn. I went through a transition in our traditional culture before I went to residential school. And the transition was done through building relatives. And when you build relatives, transition is easy. But when I went to residential school, I went through a transition by conforming to Indian Act, Indian Agent, Indian Reserves, residential school. All these policies were what was confining me. I never thought in my lifetime that I would ever be talking about and hearing about our experiences at residential school. And I'm so happy today to be here today to experience this day to honor the students and the survivors of residential school. When I left residential school, I never really had a chance to grieve. I left the school with anger because of the sexual, physical, and mental abuse. I learned an education. I learned how to read and write, but at the cost of abuses, which caused me trauma. When I left residential school, those traumas, I never had time to heal. Or I tried to heal, but Canadians never knew what residential schools were. So without an acknowledgement, I couldn't heal. I had to carry the traumas. I had to carry the anger. So through my life, that's why I say, I never thought I'd see this day to be able to be alive to experience an honor like this. I would say we need to understand that today is a very special day. Today should be a day of awareness and education about part of Canadian history we don't hear about. We need to learn the truth, but I also say we need to start healing. Working with elders are saying we need, now that the 215 started this awareness, now we can heal. It's being acknowledged. We can start healing. And I feel that reconciliation is the responsibility of all Canadians and all Indigenous people to start looking at how we might heal. We need to put away the anger. I spent from 14 years old to now in the 70s, all those years of anger, but it never got me any place. I need to start healing, but I'm glad we're having this acknowledgement of residential school, and we can start healing with everybody. The elders are talking about we need to heal. We need to start using our ceremonies, because I never thought we'd ever have our ceremonies in a large institution like the University of Calgary. So with that, I just want to acknowledge the university. I'd like to acknowledge the children that didn't come home. I know I remember children that my friends in the community, after we went to residential school and after I came out of residential school, I wonder where they are because I never seen them again. And there's many stories across the country like that. So I would like to just say it's a time that we recognize, an important time in Canadian history, and we all need to heal together, all Canadians and Indigenous people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reg. Your message about healing and about growth and about moving forward and the importance of our ceremonies in that is well heard. We have these items, our protocol items, our cloth, our tobacco to offer you and Yuna, as well as Rose, who are accompanying you. We also have these items for the drum singers, the drummers and the singers that are joining us here. I would like to welcome back Elder Rod Hunter and his accompaniment to sing us his song, Victory Song. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Elder Rod. Your members who are accompanying you and yourself in your work with Ayahe Nakota is truly impactful on our communities. And as I said, I have these protocol items for each of you in joining us. I'll pass them to you when, right after this event. I think it's really significant that we have a victory song at this time that you just shared. I keep thinking about all the people that made it through residential school, and that our chance to be able to speak on this truly is a victory for our peoples. And going forward, each day we go forward as First Nations people, Métis people, Inuit people, standing proud as a victory. I would like now to ask Dr. Balser to provide some closing thoughts for us.
Thank you, Dr. Hart, and thank you to the elders and the drummers, and thank you for sharing your reflections and the songs this morning with us. It is absolutely my great, great honor to be here with you today and to offer some final thoughts on reconciliation and commitment and how we go forward together. This is, as we've been hearing, an important day, one that has been too long in coming. As a recent settler here, I'm humbled by the history the day represents, and I pledge to work with you and walk with you toward a new future. I've been here just 6 months, but one of the things that stands out to me the most about the University of Calgary is the commitment that has been made here with Itapito and to reconciliation. And I also know that it is every day, not just today, that we need to prioritize the work that must be done towards reconciliation. We need to ensure that we move toward reconciliation through our work, study, and daily life at the University of Calgary. I know that at times that work might be uncomfortable or challenging, but it is necessary for healing. And healing is necessary. I acknowledge that this has been a particularly painful year for our Indigenous communities, with the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on the Indigenous communities and the discovery of the residential school grave sites. These have brought the need for reconciliation even more to the forefront. And on behalf of the university, I want to honor all of those who have been victimized and impacted by residential schools, and promise to hold you in my heart and commit to engagement and reconciliation. As part of that commitment, we're working to change our policies and our practices to be inclusive and to reflect Indigenous ways. And that is important. Removing barriers to opportunity and to education is critical. Making sure that our campus is inclusive, supportive, and welcoming is critical. Walking a parallel path forward and embracing the need for change in the way we settlers move forward, and doing so with intention and accountability, is critical. With this as our context for a shared journey. We are committed to increasing Indigenous representation and ensuring that Indigenous ways of knowing, doing, connecting, and being are deeply embedded in our institution. I'm new to the University of Calgary, and it has been an honor to be welcomed by our elders, to have recently met our Indigenous scholars, and I look forward to that relationship growing in support of our Indigenous colleagues and students. And last, I just want to say that as I continue to learn and work on both my own journey and our institutional journey, I'm committed as provost to ensure efforts toward reconciliation and healing are supported across our entire campus community. We have much to do still, but we are firm in our commitment to authentic transformation and the time and the patience that takes. This university is showing through Itapito and our ongoing efforts that we are serious about supporting reconciliation and walking this path together in a good way. Thank you.
We appreciate your words and reflection, Dr. Balser. Thank you very much for sharing. I'm appreciative of your commitment. I acknowledge how people have the opportunity here, our elders have the opportunity here to share reflective statements, and I appreciate how your words demonstrate that we're committed to action as an institution and individuals within the University of Calgary. I would like to also remember that there are a number of events happening today in reflection of this commitment, and there will be events throughout the year. I ask you to please go to the Office of Indigenous Engagement website for the events that we have over the lunch hour and evening in partnership with the Calgary Public Library. Faculty events are also listed on the Community Engagement website. We hope you will participate in what you can. I want to note that the impact of the residential school system is a hard subject to talk about, and it could bring up a lot of unexpected feelings. We provided some support resources on the screen, and that may be helpful to you. At this time, I would ask Reg if you would mind providing a closing prayer for us for today's event.
Okay. Be happy to do a closing. I just want to recognize and honor all the speakers today, my sister Una, and our staff and the drummers today. I just want to say I'm glad the University of Calgary today are working in those parallel paths to understand each other. Those are the basic fundamental principles of what we might look at as a foundation to healing and working together. We need to ensure that we need to include Indigenous principles and values with protection and safety here at the University of Calgary. So with that, I'll acknowledge Abstatoki, Creator, to give us all a beautiful day in our directions to healing, but also remember the spirits that didn't come home from residential school. O kahe, ai stipadapi, ao kitans kachimatan Christikoi, ai ispomus and nikismarkanot kaywacha, Ethiopia, Ituskinimataya, it's Chikix Matut Kaye. O Kinixi Kaye, I Kuchinaya, Manikan Sisotopia. I was Pumosa, Stipata, Piopan Christikoi, Mahumanistai Kimatosa, Makaskinoxa, Abstatok, Yanik Bukamot, Sokoi. I Pumosa, Stipata, Piop, Kanoachimois. O kenik matita pakpapakawanikoma Christistumsen. Ayon okrikim tokid pinoka de tsisino kinnan. O kistipata piop No kanoa chimus kanakop kitapio kanakpukawa kanakitchapokpio anakaschistumio klokiniskan machichi ipstapio itasukinaki makitamautkas o kapsituki no kochimiska sakinadani kamotane anek nesta wachiman anek achipatapio sinanya. I thank you very much.
Anna, thank you, Reg. This is the end of our formal ceremony. I want to express my warmest regards to everyone who is here today. I thank you for this beautiful time together. As we leave today, I ask you, please keep the children in your thoughts. Thank you.